up to point of birth and maybe beyond.
Republicans in Congress are now calling for a nationwide abortion ban. Some even from the moment of conception. The right of every woman in every state in this country to make decisions about her own body is on the line. And I've said it before and I will say it again. How dare they?
She's so mad. So mad. She's not mad. She's not mad at all. She's a terrible... I'll say it before and I'll say it. How dare... She has to get Greta Thunberg to, like, rappel from the ceiling and just say, how dare you? Into the microphone and then just rappel. Also, over the last 24 hours, she was trying to quote the Declaration of Independence, and I don't know what it is about the Declaration of Independence and Democrats. They have a real tough time with it. You recall that Joe Biden recently tried to quote the Declaration about corn popper randomly. Well, now Kamala Harris is quoting the Declaration of Independence, and she forgot a little phrase in it called the right to life. Remember, right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Remember that? She just forgets about the right to life. And I guess it's the right to or something.
America is a promise. It is a promise of freedom, not for some, but for all. A promise we made in the Declaration of Independence, that we are each endowed with the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness.
Well, just skip right over that in the abortion speech. You can't say right to life. You're endowed to liberty and a pursuit of happiness. And you know she's lying. That's when you know. She starts nodding. All weird. But by the way, remember that time that a bunch of pro-life clinics got bombed and it took the federal government under Joe Biden like a year and a half to realize that or do anything about it? And they pretended the whole time it was not a big deal. Well, now it turns out that pro-abortion protesters gathered outside Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home again to on the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, which fell 7 months after the ruling to overturn the landmark decision. A video of what appeared to be about a dozen protesters wielding signs in the rain outside of Kavanaugh's home on Sunday was posted by Daily Signal reporter Mary Margaret Olahan. The demonstration outside the personal residence comes after protests in June outside the homes of several justices, so they are back again. Things are going really well. Now, one of the things about the abortion debate that's the left will only selectively talk about certain aspects of abortion. So, there is an entire essay with full graphics from doctors Erica Bliss, Joan Fleischman, and Michelle Gomez. They are co-founders of the My Abortion Network, and they have a piece in the New York Times called Early Abortion Looks Like Nothing You've Been Told. Looks nothing like what you've been told. A very early stage fetal tissue. And here's what these doctors write. As your primary care clinicians like us who provide early abortions in their practice have long known that the pregnancy tissue we remove does not look like what most people expect. After Roe v. Wade was overturned last summer, and early pregnancy termination was banned across more than a dozen states, we felt it was important to make this information public and show the images we have seen more widely. It's important to us to counter medical misinformation related to early pregnancy because about 80% of abortions in the United States occur at 9 weeks or earlier. So they then released a bunch of pictures in the fetal tissue from essentially 5 through 9 weeks of pregnancy. And as you would imagine, if you know anything about abortion or fetal development, it's very difficult to see anything, right? I mean, it looks like just clusters of tissue. That is not a giant shock. Although the reality is that 10 to 9 or 10 weeks, it is actually fairly well differentiated. I happen to know that because I've seen fetal development pictures, including aborted fetuses, all throughout the process. Okay, so that's just a simple fact of the matter. There's a difference between what to the naked eye a fetus looks like at 5 weeks and what a fetus looks like at 9 weeks. Also, worth noting here, you notice the New York Times would never, not in a million years, print a picture of a 15-week-old fetus after an abortion. Never, ever, ever. Not for $1 million. Not for all the money in the world. Why? A 15-week-old fetus looks like a baby. They would never do that. Instead, they'll just do it at the earliest stage. So let's say for a second that, I guess the premise of this article is that we are only supposed to care about the fetuses that look like babies. Okay, let's start with that. Does that mean that at week 12 we start caring? We ban abortion after week 12? What's the rule here? It seems to me that you are shifting the logic of why an abortion is okay. What they're really trying to fight here is the ultrasound. Because the reality is that the ultrasounds from the earliest stages, talking like from the very earliest stages, 6, 7, 8 weeks, you can hear the heartbeat. You can actually see things on the ultrasound. And so they're trying to debunk that. But there is a media blackout on later stages of pregnancy and abortions and what they look like. An absolute media blackout. This I know for a 100% fact. I know this. A couple of years ago, in 2018, I did a midterm special for Fox News. Fox News is a very conservative outlet, obviously. I did a midterm election special. One of the monologues I did in the midterm election special is I actually spelled out what fetal development looked like at various stages of pregnancy. And during that monologue, I actually sent to our producers at Fox pictures of what fetuses looked like at that stage of fetal development. It included very graphic photos of what abortions look like, because it looks like a baby. If you're looking at a 16-week-old, 15-week-old, 14-week-old fetus, you're looking at something that looks very much like a baby. And Fox said we couldn't put it on the air. Instead, Fox used a bunch of graphics that were essentially animation of what the fetus looked like. That was the best that they were willing to do. Okay, that's their prerogative. They're their own network. I don't blame them for that. But the point is that if you're on the left and you're the New York Times, you will show what fetal tissue looks like at the very earliest stages, but you won't do it the rest of the time. It might cut against your argument. It's such an unbelievably dishonest argument by the New York Times to do that. And it's all the more reason why pro-life advocates actually should show people as much as possible what abortion looks like, what children in the womb look like. It's why ultrasound is important, and why Planned Parenthood is fighting them so hard. Over the course of time, the science becomes better and better, and as we see better and better in the womb, the Democrats are going to lose on this issue, and they know this, and that is why they are freaking out. Okay, meanwhile, Joe Biden's document scandal is not going well. We'll get to that in just one moment. But first, if you own a business, it's been a bumpy ride for the last couple of years, from the pandemic to inflation to incipient recession. I'm sure that you could use a break. Innovation refunds can help you out. If your business has 5 or more employees and managed to survive COVID, you could be eligible to receive a payroll tax rebate of up to $26,000 per employee. Not alone, there's no payback, it is a refund on your taxes. The challenge is, how do you get your hands on it? How do you cut through the red tape and get your business the refund money? Well, yeah, head on over to getrefunds.com. Their team of tax attorneys are highly trained in little-known payroll tax refund programs. They've already returned $1 billion to businesses. They can help you too. They do all the work at no charge up front, simply share a percentage of the cash that they get for you. Businesses of all types can qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, even those that had increases in sales. Find out if your business qualifies. Just head on over to getrefunds.com, click on Qualify Me, answer a few quicker questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited amount of time, so you need to get started right now. Don't miss out. Head on over to getrefunds.com. That's getrefunds.com, GETREFUNDS.com, getrefunds.com to start saving money today. Alrighty, coming up, Joe Biden's document scandal, it just keeps going and going and going. It's the Energizer Bunny, Ben Shapiro Show.
Do you own land? Different to sell land than a home. But here's good news. Bob and Sandy Jameson, the Jameson team with Toscana Properties, experts in selling land too. Like Dave had this piece of land in San Mateo County. Owned it for 30 years. The market has changed so much, land can be tough to sell, but the Jameson team had the solution. With their auction program, they were able to generate multiple bidders and sold the property for a great price in less than 30 days. Sandy also helped Dave get the property cleaned up and ready for the new buyer. They knew everything.
We all know interest rates are up. How does that affect the housing market? Buyers, sellers will get the right answers from the Jameson team. Bob and Sandy Jameson know the market, and they can let you know.
Yeah, whether it's my residence, some land, a rental place, call the Jameson team. I've been in real estate. I know who to trust. I trust Bob and Sandy, and you can too. Give them a call. Get acquainted. 408-686-HOME. That's 408-686-HOME. Or go online to sandyhasbuyers.com. sandyhasbuyers.com.
The Jameson Team, Toscana Properties, DRE license number 01845393.
Edward Brown here to tell you about our new show on KSFO on Saturdays at 6 a.m. The Real Estate Mastermind Live, a radio show for real estate investors who want to learn from different leading industry experts. Learn how to raise more capital, close bigger deals, scale your own portfolio, and more. Hosted by me, Edward Brown, Investor Relations at Pacific Private Money, along with Seti Gershberg and Jay Tannenbaum, the owners of Scottsdale Real Estate Investments. Join us every week on the Real Estate Mastermind Live at 6 a.m. on KSFO every Saturday. You won't want to miss it.
You don't always notice your carpet's getting dirty. I mean, sometimes you have a big stain that happens with a dog or a glass of wine or something like that. You notice, but little by little you don't notice it. Man, if you have hardwood floors, have you had this experience where, you know, you're swiffering up all the dirt and dust on sometimes it seems like an hourly basis? Your carpet's getting just as dirty. It just kind of gets all gunked up mopping the carpet. You gotta have Zero Res come out and clean that thing.
Yeah, carpets are like giant filters that catch so much dirt and dust and hair and dead skin and you name it. Get it deep cleaned by Zero Res. You'll see that dirty water coming out of them and think, oh, I should have done this sooner. Don't wait any longer. Call our friends at Zero Res. Your carpets dry faster. They do such a good job. Go to ZeroResBayArea.com and use the code ZeroRes1. That's ZeroResBayArea.com. And use the code ZeroRes1. Jump on the website, get the phone number, and ask for the Armstrong and Getty special.
Strong and Getty sent you.
Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward, it spells the same. Zero Res.
West Coast Men's Health gets real results for men who suffer from erectile dysfunction or Peyronie's. Many of our patients are off Viagra and have told us they feel 20 years younger. And right now, we're offering a free treatment just for coming in. Call West Coast Men's Health today and get back to the younger you.
With clinics in San Mateo and Sacramento, call 650-649-7944. That's 650-649-7944. Online at westcoastmenshealth.com.
Welcome back to the Ben Shapiro Show. So, Joe Biden's document scandal isn't going anywhere. And the Biden team really has no defense to it. Joe Biden's, one of his top advisors, a person named Ian Sand, appeared on national TV yesterday to talk about the fact that he can't actually explain how many documents have actually been found or are out there, which is not a good sign.
Can you give us a sense of how many classified documents we are now talking about total across all three locations?
Sure, it's a good question, and actually the answer to it is a little bit complicated because of this point that I'm making about the integrity of an ongoing Justice Department investigation. The Department is going to be looking at all sorts of questions like that throughout their investigation.
So they don't know. The answer is they don't know, which means that we're going to find more of them. I mean, it's that simple. By the way, it wasn't 6 documents that were found the other day. It was like 6 documents plus other materials. There's 6 items. You don't know if those items were boxes. So we really have no clue. The Democratic Party is trying to, they're really breaking down into sort of 2 separate segments on this particular matter. You have some coons who are trying to defend Joe Biden. He was trying to do that yesterday, claiming that this document issue doesn't keep anybody up at night. No document issue has ever kept anybody up at night. None. Hillary's emails didn't keep anybody up at night. It irritated everybody that Hillary was getting away with it, but nobody was deeply worried that Hillary's emails were actually going to result in, like, the Chinese having our nuclear codes. Nobody is worried that Donald Trump is selling Chinese the nuclear secrets, and nobody's really worried that Joe Biden is working with Iran or something. That's not what this is about. The thing that keeps people awake at night is a lack of credibility and consistency in implementation of the law. That's the thing that people are worried about. Nobody's actually worried that Joe Biden has sitting in his basement in Delaware a bunch of old documents from the time that he was on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. What people are worried about is that there's one and there's another standard for you. There's one standard for Trump and there's another standard for Hillary Clinton. That is the thing that does keep people up at night. Anyway, here's Senator Coons trying to defend Joe Biden.
Say he takes classified material seriously when some of what was found may have been in his home for more than a decade, and he seemingly had no idea.
As you get more senior and as the matters that you're handling are more important and occasionally more classified, the volume gets higher. So I do think this was inadvertent. The whole point of having a special counsel is to ensure that and to give the American people confidence in that. But frankly, Martha, I also don't think this is an issue that's keeping Americans up at night.
Again, if this is the new standard, there's not a single issue that Donald Trump had his entire term that kept people up at night. And truly, there was not a lot happening. They kept you, like, people were like waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. Not unless you were a person who read Mary Trump's book as a devotional or something. Every morning you just read a section of Mary Trump on bended knee or something. And most of us looked at Donald Trump doing what he was doing, like, well, I guess he's tweeting something on the toilet again. It was only Democrats who was keeping them up, and oh my God, what are we going to do? Donald Trump's tweeting another thing. That's not actually the standard, as you may have noticed. And, again, as I say, there's a divide that is broken out inside the Democratic Party. You've got, again, people like Chris Coons or MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell trying to defend Joe Biden. Here's O'Donnell doing that yesterday.
They should still be able to hold these 2 separate cases in separate silos and still charge Donald Trump if Donald Trump's case justifies charging him regardless of what Joe Biden did.
Yeah, and everything we know about the Biden case is because of Biden cooperation. Every single thing we know about it.
There's so much cooperation by Joe. That's how we know about it. It's because, hold up. It happened November 2nd. We found out about it in the middle of January. So no, actually, they weren't super cooperative with the American people, as it turns out. Well, Politico is reporting on the gap. They say Senate Democrats returned on Monday after a long recess, and after the Justice Department found additional classified documents during a 13-hour search of Biden's home in Wilmington, Delaware. The discovery of those documents, on top of classified materials found in November and December, has created a political headache after Democrats sought to hammer Trump for his handling of classified material. The issue is also an unwelcome one for the party. I hope they found them all, said Dick Durbin. As for the president, Durbin said he's done well by cooperating every step of the way, but he still has documents, and I don't understand why he'd have those in his personal possession. It's not a full-on rebellion. Democrats are rejecting comparisons with Trump. They argue that unlike Trump, Biden's legal team turned over the documents upon discovery and invited the DOJ to search for more. But Senate Minority Whip John Thune, Republican of South Dakota, says quite correctly, the discovery of the Biden documents neutralizes the issue politically. So they're trying to attack Trump. Biden was chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. He should know better. That happens to be correct. So this is an issue that is not going away for Joe Biden. Now, his shtick here is that Republicans should never, ever, ever, ever challenge the debt ceiling. The whole idea of holding up the debt ceiling is, let's get the government's fiscal house in order so we extend another line of credit. Now, Democrats who think this is crazy, we do this with, like, the International Monetary Fund all the time. But Democrats seem to be under the belief, so do the media, that once you take out debt, you now have an endless supply of more debt you get to take out. Okay, so every so often, there is a theory that the President of the United States should defeat the debt ceiling by coining a $1 trillion coin. In case you don't understand what this is, Fortune magazine explains the scheme, which proponents is authorized by an obscure law which would involve the U.S. Treasury minting a special coin and depositing it with the Federal Reserve, a measure that could stave off an impending crisis triggered by Republicans in the House of Representatives, have said they will refuse to raise the country's borrowing limit. Raising the so-called debt ceiling is necessary to cover Congress's existing obligations, hence the appeal of the $1 trillion coin. So basically, they create a coin, and they say this is worth $1 trillion, and they deposit it in the U.S. Treasury. And they say, hey, look at that. We have $1 trillion to pay back our debts. Isn't that amazing, guys? We created this magic $1 trillion coin. It says right on it, $1 trillion, which is effectively the same thing as doing Weimar Republic money printing, right? So what exactly would the loophole be? Well, in 1996, the U.S. passed the Commemorative Coin Act, which allows the Secretary of the Treasury to mint platinum coins of any value. It's supposed to be used to print collectibles. You know, like their bicentennial coin or something. Now, commentators like Paul Krugman of the New York Times are advocating that the Treasury Department should print a platinum coin worth $1 trillion. The department would then give the coin, which is essentially unusable to the Federal Reserve, would then convert it into the cash the government can use to pay the bills it would be unable to cover without borrowing money. It's a really stupid idea. Krugman said that minting a $1 trillion coin would almost certainly be legal, but there are others who are not morons who are being a little bit more cautious about all of that. Gerard, a law professor at American University's Washington College of Law, said, quote, I think it raises a lot of open legal questions about the Fed's authority to be involved in this kind of transaction. This is arguably not a monetary policy. This is a fiscal problem. That is not the Fed's primary goal. In other words, this is not a problem that you solve. When you have an outstanding debt of $31 trillion, it's not a problem you solve by printing $31 coins and just handing them out to people. That is not the way that works. According to Janet Yellen, she had poured cold water on that idea this weekend. She said, it truly is not by any means to be taken as a given the Fed would do it. I think especially with something that's a gimmick. The Fed's not required to accept it. There's no requirement on the part of the Fed. It's up to them what to do. They're thinking about the possibility of doing it as a digital coin also. This is also stupid. How about this? How about Republicans come forward with a list of demands in order to actually increase the debt ceiling, and then Democrats negotiate over that? Wouldn't that be the proper solution? You might think so, but we have now reached the stage of impasse where Democrats refuse, like, the most basic demands to even negotiate on issues like this. They just walk away from the table and claim that essentially they're done. Okay, meanwhile, in the ongoing saga that is George Santos, so George Santos, you'll recall, is a newly elected Republican congressperson, if that's even his real name. And now, according to the Business Insider, he partied in drag over a 3-year period. New videos appear to show, despite his suggestions, first of all, it's never a one-off. A dude's partying in drag typically party in drag a lot. And how many people do you know who are like, oh, it was a one-time thing when by the time I partied in drag? George Santos, who initially denied claims he performed as a drag queen, later appeared to admit he once had fun at a festival dressing as a woman. There was George Santos the other day say, sue me for having a life. Sue me for having fun. Well, I mean, we're mostly like angry at you because you completely falsified every detail of your life, and also you are you're a liar in Congress. That doesn't seem amazing.
This photograph,
Nice.
that